I'm post leg day right now, so my hips, my glutes, my adductors, quads, everything is really tight. So I've hit both of my leg days this week already. And so this mobility day is gonna be super crucial for me to open up and kind of get into the muscle fascia and really break open, put pressure on my glutes. I'm foam rolling right now, so I'm trying to just like loosen up the glutes so that I can open up in some of these movements. But once I'm finished here, we're gonna go into this Jefferson curl, and I'm gonna explain that. So the overall goal of all of my mobility days is just to open up the hips, because after hitting brutal leg days and a lot of leg sessions in the bodybuilding world, we tend to get super tight through the hips. So you'll notice your inability to kind of open up the hips. You'll notice inability to do internal rotation and external rotation of your hips. So in between sets or before I start my mobility day, I like to sit in this deep squat here. Just kind of move around, kind of get a feeling as to like where I'm not opening up or where I'm really tight, where I don't have access to certain ranges. I like to especially get my knees over my toes. So anytime I can get knee flexion and get my knees over my toes, this gets a stretch in the quads and also allows me to kind of open up these ankles a little bit, because I have really tight ankles as well. In this deep squat, you can also work on your thoracic spine mobility as well. So kind of opening up the spine a little bit. If you're really tight, you'll feel a popping sensation as well as a super stretch in your groin, as well as maybe your outer hip. You might even cramp up a little bit. You'll get some engagement out of your glutes as well. You'll feel a little bit looser in your low back as well. I know a lot of us have super tight low backs. So these mobility exercises are allowing you to tap in to deeper ranges so that you can kind of take the pressure and relieve your low back and utilize your glutes a little bit more as well. A lot of people have weak glutes, so their glutes don't fire through their leg movements. This mobility stuff is really gonna help with that. A lot of people have the inability to even sit in a bodyweight squat like that, to be able to get into a deep squat without having any assistance from weight is really difficult for a lot of people. Like even for me, my hip just popped like crazy sitting in that deep squat there. So this mobility stuff is really sort of drinking from the fountain of youth. That's kind of how I put it. It's like we're kind of regressing back to our infant and toddler selves. You know, a toddler, when they go to pick up something off the ground, they don't bend over like an adult does and try to like pick it up. Their natural instinct is really just to squat down and pick it up, right? So a toddler is just like naturally has the ability to squat. So as an adult, we kind of lose this function. We kind of lose this like connection. And this bodyweight squat is supposed to be a resting position, but this is really difficult for a lot of folks, including myself. So the goal is to really get comfortable in this deep squat on a regular basis. And I do this in and out of my sets on every single training session. I try to like remain productive in between sets, and I spend a lot of time in the squat position. This is a really good stretch too. This is like a phenomenal stretched position, is to just sit in a bodyweight squat. People don't understand how important it is to be able to perform a bodyweight squat as a grown adult. And one thing that helps me get into that squat, especially after a posterior leg day like yesterday, right? So when I hit hams and glutes, I'm so tight. Everything in my posterior is so tight. My hips get very tight from all of those hinging patterns. So one way that I kind of open back up before or after a posterior leg day is to get into this Jefferson curl. So this Jefferson curl exercise, you don't really need a lot of weight, but you do want to stand up on a box or something that gives you a little bit of elevation. And the goal here is to you really want to perfect your hinging patterns, right? So a lot of people have trouble doing RDLs and moving their pelvis and getting their hips back in a way that allows them to actually utilize their hamstring and glutes. So this Jefferson curl is going to be really beneficial. It's going to help you a lot. The better you get at the Jefferson curl, the better you get at this movement on your mobility days or your mobility sessions, the better your hinge patterns are going to be when you go to hit a posterior leg day and you're trying to hit those RDLs without feeling the pressure in your low back. And so this kind of relieves some of that tightness back here and allows you to get that mind-muscle connection with your glutes. So in a Jefferson curl, you really want to put your feet wherever you feel comfortable and just practice folding, right? So I've got a little bit of a deficit here, and I've got some counterbalance weight here with this kettlebell. So I'm practicing my folds. I'm practicing hinging here with this movement. So what I like to do is grab the kettlebell and just kind of hang here, right? Anytime I'm doing mobility, I'm exploring movement. I'm just trying to find weak areas. I'm trying to find stiff areas. I'm trying to feel those stretches, get some relief, feel some of those pops even. When you're hitting mobility on a regular basis, you become your own chiropractor essentially. You'll start to feel, especially as an old head, somebody who weight trains often and body builds for a living, you're gonna get really, really tight, and this stuff is gonna lubricate you. So from here, I'll kind of just tilt the pelvis back and push my hips back as far as I possibly can. And I'll just pulse here, right? You'll feel some engagement out of your hamstrings and your glutes. And you'll also feel a stretch in the low back, a little bit of relief here as you move around at the bottom. And the weight allows me to kind of fold even further. It gives me a little bit of a counterbalance here. And then you just want to hinge. So it's like an RDL, but with a full extension at the bottom. And it's a stiff-legged deadlift. There's no bend in the knee really here. Just focused on folding and building strength through the hamstrings. Also your hip flexors, it requires a lot of hip flexor to be able to even get your hips far back enough to engage the hamstrings. So a lot of people, when they fold, they just like fold forward with no help from their hip flexors. So it's all low back. When you get to this area here, it's a lot of strain on the low back. The best thing you could do for your low back is to work on your hip flexors, to build your hip flexors, to be able to push those hips back as far as possible as you descend into this hinge here, right? As you descend into the fold. And the better you get at this movement, the better you'll feel on your leg days. The more engagement you'll get out of your hip flexors, the more mind-muscle connection you'll get out of your glutes. And so not only do I work on my hinge patterns here in the Jefferson curl, you can also get a lot of benefits out of the squat position here as well. So if I want to focus on my ankles or getting knee flexion, so getting my knees over my toes, you can do a lot in the squat position here because you've got this counterbalance weight kind of underneath you. So not only can I work on strengthening my ankles and improving flexibility in my ankles, but I can also get a low back pump here. So I can work my low back just by doing these little raises here. And you can build a lot of low back strength just taking a kettlebell in this position and sitting in the squat position and kind of lifting. I'm feeling a lot of strain, a lot of tension on my low back as I do this movement. And you get a crazy pump in the low back from this. Not only that, I'm feeling a lot of tightness in my ankles, so you start to, not only do you build strength and get more dorsiflexion out of the front of your ankles, but you feel a little bit of a relief. You might even feel some ankle pops, things to that nature. There's a lot of things you can do in this Jefferson curl, man. I highly recommend spending a lot of time in this position. Once again, thoracic spine mobility as well. So you have the counterbalance of weight, or you can progress the movement and utilize the weight, right? To build strength through rotation, strength through rotating the spine. The stronger you are, rotational movements like that as well, the more free you'll feel as you train. Then I'll go from here, get right back into that resting squat position. Getting the hips back as far as possible. That little bit of mobility training we just did is definitely allowing me to feel more natural in this body weight squat here. This is the basis. This is the foundation. If you're able to perform the body weight squat well with your heels on the ground, which I can't even get my heels on the ground, right? I'm not as limber as a lot of folks, but this is more limber than I was when I started. I'm able to sit back a lot further than I was when I started. And mind you, I've been training legs 2-3 times a week for years and years and years without hitting the mobility stuff, right? I didn't become this mobility enthusiast until very recently. I've only been doing the mobility stuff for maybe 2-3 years probably. And I've just gotten progressively better and better at it over the years. But when I first started, god awful. I'm dealing with crazy low back pain, low back stiffness, chronic knee inflammation in both of my knees to the point where I couldn't sit at a Hornets game or sit at a football game or sit in the back seat of a car for long car rides, long durations, without my knees just absolutely throbbing. My knees absolutely throbbing to the point where I have to find a way to stretch my legs out because I'm dealing with so much inflammation in my knees and that tendonitis in my patellar tendons. And so now I can solemnly say after 2-3 years of consistent mobility training to supplement my bodybuilding training, I'll say my knee pain is damn near erased. It's damn near gone. My knees are very healthy and very strong. And my low back has good weeks and bad weeks. But I would say these days a lot more good than bad. A lot more good weeks than bad weeks. My low back's doing a lot better than it was 3 years ago when I injured it and couldn't move for 2-3 weeks because I tweaked my low back. I haven't tweaked it since, and my low back feels a lot better than it ever has. It's a lot stronger because I've been improving my Jefferson curls. Sorry, I gotta check the hamstring pump real quick. Shit's kind of booming right now. My right ankle's super tight right now. So I'm just trying to restore movement in these ankles, man. Stretch the quad, get a nice stretch in the hip flexor, restore my ankles. And then right back into that squat position. So I'm feeling a crazy stretch in my hamstring right now as I'm descending into this, especially with the counterbalance of the weight. It's a crazy stretch down here. I'm also feeling activation in my left glute, the plantar glute. We're just practicing our folds here, right? You're good. Appreciate you.
Yep. Legendary cameos.
For real. All right, so once I finish those weighted stretches there, I'll go into like a leg lift. So I'm trying to build strength in my hip flexor. Now my quads cramping up. Your quads will cramp if they're sore or if you hit them recently. For some reason, when I do these leg lifts, my quads will cramp up on me. I need some electrolytes. All right, so we're gonna go into these seated good mornings. So once again, we're focused on folding still. I consider these like pancake folds. You can call them whatever you want, but essentially a pancake fold is your ability to fold while you're sort of in a wide stance. So this is a lot of hip flexor. Being able to like keep your hips back even in a seated position. So the seat gives you a little bit of stability, but you also want to utilize your hip flexors to be able to fold forward. So the better you can fold forward, the stronger your hip flexors are and the more healthy they are as well. So I'll typically start in this position here, trying to get some relief and some mobility out of my shoulders and my chest. Olympic lifters, when they do snatches or cleans or clean and jerks, the whole goal is the ability to get under the weight, right? Be able to sort of thrust your body under the weight, and it takes a lot of shoulder mobility and strength to be able to put a lot of weight over your head. You also need to have strong hip flexors to be able to get your hip flexors, get your hips back far enough to be able to get under the weight as well. So I'll start this movement with a lot of these, just kind of getting up under the weight, building strength in the shoulders and restoring mobility in my shoulders. Then I'll start to work on my folds, right? So I'm kind of just like folding forward and pulling the hip flexors, using my hip flexors to fold forward as far as possible without rounding my low back. And I'm kind of just thrusting my pelvis. I'm kind of moving through my pelvis and just bringing the hips back as much as I possibly can with my hip flexors. Get some spine rotation in there as well. You always want to have the ability to rotate, build strength through rotation as well. But this is a lot of hip flexor. As I'm folding forward, I'm feeling crazy tension and crazy pull out of both of my hip flexors here. And in these folds, you can find, your weak points, whether you have a weak hip or a hip impingement of some sort on one side. You'll really start to feel that here on these seated good mornings. And as you progressively overload this and add more and more weight, it becomes a hamstring exercise as well. Good mornings are typically a hamstring exercise, but the way that I like to utilize them is for mobility purposes, because I have trouble folding. Yes, sir.
I don't know, catch you there, but it worked.
It's a vibe, dude. All right, so I'm gonna go through my classic posing. So I'm trying to compete NPC Classic for the first time this year. So I'm gonna go through all of the poses and we're just gonna do a quick pose down. So I'm gonna start with a front pose here. So my cues on this front pose really, so we always start from the ground up. So for this front pose here, I'm kind of trying to take my feet and spread the ground, right? I'm trying to kind of point my toes out and get as much of this outer quad sweep as I possibly can, while constantly trying to just like spread the ground with my feet. And then I want to take my hips and push my hips as far back as I possibly can to try to create this like X figure, get my waist as small as I possibly can, and then try to get as wide as I possibly can in the bottom and up top. So I really want to like get this X figure here, right? I want to look like an X essentially. So I push my hips back as far as I possibly can, press the knees out, pull my stomach in as much as I can. They call it a vacuum, so I'm trying to like pull my stomach in as much as I possibly can here. Hips back, knees out, stomach in, and then flex the lats here. While also cueing my chest up. Then I'll go into the front double bi. So on the front double bi and the front abdominal, you kind of want to like angle you want to angle your waist a little bit. So I lean into this right leg here and I'm putting all of my weight on this plantar leg. And once again, driving that knee over the toe so I can get as much of this adductor and quad as I possibly can. So I'm leaning into this leg, then I take the left leg and kind of point that toe and flex this quad as much as I possibly can and get that angled waist so I can get as much width in the adductors and the quads as I possibly can. Once again, pull the stomach in, flare the lats, and then push the elbows forward as I flex the biceps. So bringing my wrists back as much as I possibly can, and then flaring the elbows forward, and then pulling in my stomach as much as I can. Man, same bottom half here, same stance. I'm gonna go into a front abdominal. So the goal here is to just show off as much as my core and my abs as much as I possibly can. So I'm gonna breathe in, lift the chest up, and then breathe out. Breathe all the way out. So those are the front poses. Now I'm gonna go into my side poses. So I'm just gonna start with side relax. It's basically just like a relaxed side pose. So really, gotta get them cheeks out a little bit here, because in this pose, you wanna be able to see some of those glute striations there. So you're flexing the glute. You're flexing the glute, and then you wanna show width. Right, so you want to essentially like pretend you're holding a stick or a barbell of some sort, and just twist to the side while showing off these obliques. I don't know why I can't remember that. Showing off the obliques and then creating that width, right? So squeeze the glute, twist. And breathe all the way out and show off those obliques there. So glute striations, hamstring, obliques. And width. Always want to be wide as possible. So then from there, I'm going to go into a side chest pose. So for the side chest, I want to create as much of a top shelf as I possibly can, getting as much width on the top, as well as popping out this hamstring at the bottom here. So this side chest is actually like, the side chest, in my opinion, is the most difficult pose that you could possibly do. It's the most difficult classic pose for me. I've been working on it for a minute. So essentially what you want to do is pop out this left hamstring as much as you possibly can. So we're going to take this right leg and this right knee, and we're going to drive it into that left leg, point the toe, and make sure this left knee is essentially crossing over the right one. So you want this right knee to kind of drive into that hamstring. Keep it relaxed. Don't flex it, because if you flex it, you kind of lose some of that roundness in the hamstring. So we want to get the knee over this right knee, left knee over the right, pop that hamstring out as much as possible, and then squeeze the glute. So trying to squeeze the glute without squeezing the hamstring here. Sorry, he's trying to get by.
I was trying to let you keep that. I was listening. Oh, yeah.
That was brutal. So then from here, you just kind of want to twist and get open as much as you possibly can. So open towards the judges, essentially. So you want to take your right hand, grab that left wrist, and then twist. As you twist, you want to take that right bicep and drive it into your right pec, and open up the shoulders as much as you possibly can. So my right lat is flared right now, and I'm trying to twist as much as I possibly can to create that shelf up top. So it's a lot to think about, honestly. So in a quick motion, from the bottom up, we're trying to push the hamstring out, right? So taking that right knee, drive it into the left hamstring, or drive it into the left leg, and get that left knee over the right. Grab my wrist and twist. Flare that right lat and squeeze the glute. And I am not a pro by any means. I've never been on stage, so if you want professional advice, don't listen to me. I'm just telling you what my coach tells me, to be completely honest. Yeah. It's definitely a journey. This is all just cues that I've learned from my coach. I am not a professional at executing this. So that was my side chest there. And then I'll move into my back poses. So for this back pose here, I'm gonna start with a back relax. So just like we do the front relax, I'm gonna start with a back relax. It's essentially the same as the front relax, just the back side. So once again, I'm flaring my knees, kind of thinking about twisting the ground, because I'm trying to get as much outer quad as I possibly can. So trying to get that quad sweep, then flaring the lats and getting that chest up. The mat, yeah. Yeah, because bodybuilding is like the least meh thing you could possibly do.
All that, the fucking back is not meh.
Yeah. Dude, to be completely honest with you, bro, my boys my Navy boys to give me hella shit about that tattoo because I tell people all the time, that's my boy in the Navy's initials.
Oh, really?
So no Diddy, no homo, right? But my boy, those are his initials and he thought it was hilarious. So he's got this tattooed, like he paid for it. He's like, I'll pay for it if you just fucking get it. And I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. Back then I just so nonchalant about tattoos, I didn't care. But he's got this tattoo in some shape or form, the meh, on like 12 of us. So he's got it on like 10 or 12 of my Navy buddies. We all have this meh on us somewhere, whether it's like in their leg sleeve or in their arm, et cetera, et cetera. I just so happen to be an idiot and put it right on my back for everybody to see. But it's also a Playboy Cardi tattoo, if you understand that, and it's a Kendrick Lamar tattoo as well because it's in the same font as the Damn album. So there's a couple more meanings, hidden meanings in there. So that was back relaxing, and I got one more pose from the back side. We're gonna do a back double bi. So it's kind of similar to the front double bi where we kind of want to angle a little bit. I've got one leg forward and one leg back. So I'm gonna keep my right plantar leg forward and point that knee out to get that outer quad. But the left leg, we're gonna point that toe and flex the hamstring and glute as much as I possibly can. So I'm trying to, not only am I trying to point both of my knees out to get outer quad sweep, but I'm trying to take my left leg and show off my hamstring and glute striations here. So I'm trying to flex the ham and glute as much as I possibly can. So hips back, knees out, flex the ham and glute, and then get into my back pose here. Back double bi, pull the wrists back, push the elbows forward, and lift the chest up. Lots of cues. A whole lot of cues to think about. Trust me, it is a work in progress. Full sweat. I'm in a full sweat. Oh shit, dude. That shit's harder than the train. I don't know how many seconds. However many seconds the judges want me to hold it for.
Shit.
I might have to hold it for freaking an hour. I'm just kidding. If you're in a battle with somebody on stage, like your physiques are super tight, like y'all are like really close, neck and neck, you could be up there facing off with each other for minutes and minutes and minutes. It could feel like forever on stage. The judges will have you walk up and down and flex off, and they're trying to like really critique little minor things to decide which one of you guys wins. So you could be faced off with somebody for a good while, so you better be able to hold your poses. And if you start shaking like I was shaking earlier, probably gonna lose to the guy who's controlling his poses and he's got that endurance built up. Somebody could definitely outpose their way to a win, even if I have a better physique. All right, yeah, so that concludes the mobility session for today. Trying to really restore movement and restore, ranges of motion and break up that muscle fascia from my previous leg training. So I hit legs twice this week. So I'm trying to hit a mobility day so that I can kind of restore some of the motion and be able to come back and attack legs even harder in my next session. But also, there's a lot of other things that we could have got into today that we didn't really get a chance to get into. More on the pancake fold, so not just the good mornings, but there's a lot of different things that I do in that pancake movement. I like to also focus on building the adductors and building the abductors as well. I've got a lot of exercises with kettlebells, plates, dumbbells, things to that nature where I kind of really overload and build the muscle, build strength in different areas of my hips. Today was sort of just like a recovery mobility day, recovering from my previous leg days, but in the future we'll go into actually building your mobility and building those smaller muscles to kind of restore movement and be able to have stronger hips in general, stronger glutes, and be able to activate those muscles that may be weak or tight for you in the future. All of my mobility training is definitely helping me with all of my posing and trying to open up the hips more so I can kind of create more of that X figure and create the illusion that I'm bigger than I actually am,
Wider, right?
Yeah, just being able to open up my hips. My hips are so tight, it's hard for me to open up in some of these poses. Same with your shoulders, right? When you go into those back poses, it's hard to push your elbows forward and bring the wrists back. So doing, restoring shoulder mobility and your rotator cuffs and all kinds of things that we'll go into in the future. Those are gonna help you pose as well if you're a bodybuilder.